quiet Ontario neighborhood, a routine plumbing job would soon unravel a dark and disturbing truth. What started as a simple drain blockage turned into the discovery of human remains. The search for answers led to Adam Strong, a man whose secrets were far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. This is the chilling case of two women whose lives were tragically cut short, one discovered in a lake, the other hauntingly linked by blood. The investigation would uncover a horrifying truth, buried beneath the surface for far too long. Rori Hache was born on July 1999 in Oshawa, a quiet suburb in Ontario, Canada. She was a bright and spirited young girl, known for her love of animals and her affection for the elderly. Her childhood was marked by an innate sense of responsibility and care, leading her to become a standout member of the Army Cadet program. By the time she was 13, she had already earned the prestigious title of Cadet of the Year twice. With a future full of promise, Rori's early years were marked by excellence and determination. However, Rori's life began to unravel as she entered high school. At just 14 years old, she was introduced to crystal meth, which soon led her into a devastating struggle with addiction. This marked the beginning of a difficult chapter in her life, as she battled the overwhelming grip of substance abuse. Despite her addiction, Rori remained close to her family, particularly her uncle, Harley Davidson Guyan. A former member of the Hells Angels and a convicted criminal, Harley had a complicated past, but he shared a strong bond with his niece. He provided support during difficult times, and Rori even lived with him while he was under house arrest for drug charges in 2016. Rori's family background was deeply influenced by her grandfather, Bernie Guindon, known as Bernie the Frog, who founded the notorious Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club. Bernie was a violent criminal with a long prison sentence and a large number of children, one of whom was Rori's uncle. The influence of this biker family played a significant role in shaping Rori's environment, but despite these influences, Rori remained close-knit with her family. However, her troubled background continued to overshadow her efforts to live a better life. In her final months, Rori found stability. She was in a relationship with her boyfriend, Tony, and had even secured her own apartment. She was working hard to rebuild her life, but her tragic end would soon shatter these hopes. Rori Hache's life took a tragic turn in the summer of 2017, just as she seemed to be turning things around. On August 29th, Rori visited a drugstore with her aunt, Michelle Guind, to buy a pregnancy test. The test came back positive. Rori was pregnant. Despite the challenges she had faced, this news sparked a sense of hope for her future. She had decided to keep the baby and was looking forward to becoming a mother. This new chapter in her life was the beginning of what appeared to be a promising recovery from her addiction and a stable future with her boyfriend, Tony. But shortly after, her life would take a dark and unexpected turn. On August 10th, just a few weeks before her disappearance, a fire broke out in Rori's mother Shannon Dion's house. The fire severely injured Shannon and killed her dog. This devastating incident appeared to have triggered Rori's relapse into drug use, worsening her already fragile state of mind. Rori had been a regular at a local youth center called The Refuge, where workers had noticed that she had recently started using drugs again. Despite these setbacks, they observed that she was making progress in August and was trying to get back on track. However, just a few days before her disappearance, Rori met with her uncle, Harley. He noticed a stark change in her demeanor. Rori seemed distant and reluctant to talk about her life. He described their final hug as heartbreaking, the biggest hug she had ever given him, a hug that felt like a final goodbye. On August 29th, Rori was taken to the hospital by a friend and her mother. The exact reason for her hospital visit remains unclear, but it was reported that Rori had experienced some kind of mental health episode. CCTV footage showed Rori sitting in the waiting room, but after about 15 minutes, she left before she could be seen by a doctor. This was the last time anyone saw Rori alive. When Rori didn't show up at the refuge in the following days, her family and friends became increasingly concerned. Her family, particularly her mother, knew something was wrong, and they raised the alarm. Rori's sudden disappearance sparked the beginning of a long, uncertain search for answers. The search for Rori Hache took a tragic turn on September 11, 2017, when a fisherman and his 11-year-old grandson made a gruesome discovery in Oshawa Harbor. On that calm evening, as they were fishing from the pier, they noticed something strange floating in the water. Initially, they thought it was a piece of trash. However, after struggling for about half an hour, they managed to reel the object closer and pull it out of the water with a net. It wasn't trash, it was a human torso. At first, the grandfather thought it might be an animal, but as they examined it further, they quickly realized the disturbing truth. The item they had pulled from the lake was indeed a human torso. Alarmed, they immediately contacted the authorities. When police arrived, they confirmed the horrific discovery. The torso showed clear signs of trauma and appeared to have been deliberately severed from the rest of the body. The police initially faced difficulties identifying the victim. The torso lacked its pelvic bones, which made it challenging to determine its identity. Despite this, the investigators began reviewing missing persons reports to see if any of the bodies could match the remains. The condition of the torso raised further questions, as it was unclear whether the victim had been pregnant, though this detail would later become crucial. It wasn't until November 10, 2017, nearly 2 months after the torso was discovered, that a breakthrough occurred. Police compared the DNA from the remains with that of Rori's family, confirming that the torso belonged to Rori Hache. The missing person case that had haunted her family for weeks was now a homicide investigation. The discovery was just the beginning of a chilling investigation that would reveal the true horrors behind Rori's death. The discovery of Rori Hache's torso was the start of a complex investigation, one that would ultimately lead police to a chilling conclusion about the identity of her killer. The case gained traction when plumbers were called to address a persistent blockage in the pipes of a basement apartment on Macmillan Drive in Oshawa, where Adam Strong had lived for over a decade. The blockage had been ongoing for several days, causing frustration among the residents. On December 29, 2017, 2 plumbers were sent to clear the drain. As they worked on the pipes, they were stunned to find a fleshy substance. The plumbers, unsure of what they had discovered, immediately contacted the police. The material they had found was unmistakably human flesh. When police arrived at Strong's apartment, they were met with a foul stench emanating from the basement suite. Strong, acting nervously, immediately acknowledged the discovery and told the officers, "The jig's up. It's a body." His admission led to his arrest. The police then searched the apartment, and what they found inside was both chilling and horrifying. In a freezer located in Strong's bedroom, police discovered dismembered body parts, including Rori Hache's head, torso, and limbs. The neck of the head was tattooed with the word "alive," matching the tattoo that Rori had. This discovery confirmed the identity of the victim. The police also found blood spatter on the walls, ceiling, and floor of Strong's bedroom, further linking him to the crime. Despite the clear evidence, Strong initially denied committing murder, claiming he found Rori's body already dead. However, his confession about the dismemberment raised questions about his involvement in the killing. The investigation also uncovered disturbing details about Strong's past, including an obsession with violent content, which further painted a dark picture of his character. Strong's connection to the crime was undeniable, but the question of how Rori died and whether Strong had intended to kill her remained unclear. This discovery set in motion the investigation into the deaths of 2 women, Rori Hache and Kandis Fitzpatrick, and uncovered a disturbing connection between the two. As the investigation into Rori Hache's murder deepened, the police uncovered a chilling link to another unsolved case, the disappearance of Kandis Fitzpatrick, who had been missing since 2008. The connection between Adam Strong and Fitzpatrick was revealed when investigators discovered DNA evidence in his apartment. A hunting knife found at the scene contained traces of Fitzpatrick's DNA, providing the crucial link between Strong and the second victim. Kandis Fitzpatrick had been reported missing when she was just 18 years old. Her family, devastated by her disappearance, had spent years searching for her. They had filed missing persons reports and contacted local authorities, but for nearly a decade, no trace of Kandis was found. While Rori Hache's case had unfolded rapidly following the discovery of her remains, Fitzpatrick's case had gone cold, leaving her family without answers. The discovery of her DNA on the knife found in Strong's home sent shockwaves through the investigation. Fitzpatrick's family, already struggling with years of uncertainty, now had to face the painful reality that their loved one had likely met the same tragic fate as Rori. Strong's involvement in both women's disappearances made it clear that there was a disturbing pattern in his behavior. For the Fitzpatrick family, the confirmation that Kandis's DNA had been found at Strong's apartment was a bitter revelation. While the body of Kandis Fitzpatrick had never been found, the police now had physical evidence linking her to the gruesome acts that had taken place in Strong's home. The connection between Rori and Kandis provided the investigators with the missing pieces of the puzzle. The discovery not only confirmed Strong's involvement in both murders, but also raised unsettling questions about how he managed to evade justice for so long. What remained unclear was how Strong had come into contact with Fitzpatrick and whether he had planned both killings or if they had been crimes of opportunity. Adam Strong's trial began with a significant challenge. There was no confession from him regarding the murders of Rori Hache or Kandis Fitzpatrick. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming. Strong admitted to dismembering Rori's body, but he continued to deny that he had killed her. Instead, he claimed he had found her already dead. Despite this defense, the police and prosecution had more than enough evidence to link him directly to her death. The most damning evidence came from the crime scene itself. DNA from Rori was found throughout Strong's apartment, on his bedroom walls, the ceiling, and on a hammer that was discovered during the search. Bloodstains on the floor and Rori's belongings, including her sneakers, were also recovered. These findings contradicted Strong's claim that he had merely found her body after she died. Additionally, his presence at the crime scene, where he was later caught in a confession, further weakened his defense. During the trial, Strong's actions revealed a disturbing and callous attitude. He refused to show any remorse, and his demeanor was often cold and indifferent. Even when questioned about the murders, he maintained a nonchalant attitude. His interactions with police were just as unsettling. While he initially tried to downplay his involvement, his later comments about the dismemberment suggested a bizarre level of detachment from the gravity of the situation. The defense attempted to argue that Rori and Kandis may have died from drug overdoses, with Strong panicking and dismembering their bodies in fear of being implicated. However, this theory was weak, especially in light of the blunt force trauma found on Rori's body and the physical evidence linking Strong to the murders. The prosecution also pointed to Strong's history of violent behavior, including his online obsession with graphic violence. Ultimately, the jury convicted Adam Strong of first-degree murder for the death of Rori Hache and manslaughter for the death of Kandis Fitzpatrick. The lack of a full confession and the absence of a body for Fitzpatrick did not prevent a conviction. The overwhelming physical evidence, coupled with Strong's own admissions about the dismemberment, sealed his fate. On March 16, 2021, Adam Strong was convicted of first-degree murder for the death of Rori Hache and manslaughter for the death of Kandis Fitzpatrick. The conviction was a bittersweet moment for the families of the victims, offering justice, but not bringing back their loved ones. Rori's family, who had endured months of uncertainty, found some closure in the guilty verdict for her murder, though the pain of losing her remained. The emotional toll on Rori's mother, Shannon Dion, was evident as she delivered a victim impact statement through a video conference due to COVID-19 restrictions. In her statement, she expressed the indescribable agony of losing her daughter, particularly in such a violent and senseless manner. She spoke about the relentless search for Rori, which had been filled with hope until the moment of the torso discovery. Shannon also conveyed her frustration that the man who took her daughter's life would never fully acknowledge the extent of his actions. For the Fitzpatrick family, the verdict was a step toward closure but did not ease the years of unanswered questions. Bill Fitzpatrick, Kandis's father, had spent nearly a decade searching for his daughter, and the confirmation of her death came only after Strong's DNA was found linked to her. His pain was palpable in his statements, as he reflected on the loss of his daughter and the fact that her remains were never found until Strong's confession. The sentencing hearing took place on April 21, 2021, where Adam Strong was given a life sentence for the murder of Rori Hache. As a result of the first-degree murder conviction, Strong was ineligible for parole for 25 years. His sentence for manslaughter in the death of Kandis Fitzpatrick was to be served concurrently. While the verdict provided some measure of justice, the emotional scars left on the families would remain.